Unlike more prominent books in African American printing history, privately published Black genealogy books do not long for nor imagine a time or place void of racism, colorism, classism, sexism, capitalism, or any of the other isms of the world. Instead, privately published Black genealogy books show how real people in real times and places intertwine with and transcend the isms of the world with their own isness to achieve intergenerational grandeur. Hello, I'm Pamela E. Foster, Research Director and Curator at the HBCUHeritageHome.com Black Genealogy Book Archive. And I'll spend about 20 minutes sharing with you how publishing Ancestral Home is the legacy of privately printed Black genealogies. To explore the legacy of privately printed Black genealogy books, I'll read the introduction of the 1930 book titled The History of the Jones Family. This book is widely regarded as the first core African American genealogy and the introduction to this privately published book is an excellent text to illustrate the crux of Black genealogy. As I read the introduction to this book, you'll see the words on purple slides. I'll highlight 3 key points about the legacy of privately printed Black genealogies. I'll explore the earliest examples of published Black family histories, themes of 21st century Black family heritage books, and other key components of these books. So first, the earliest examples of published Black family histories. The introduction of the Jones Family History book begins the January 27th, 1894 edition of The Freeman, an illustrated colored newspaper, contained a plea for Negro folklore. The author exhorted African Americans to tell their family traditions and histories because future generations would find them valuable. Stories were to be sent to Miss A.M. Bacon of Hampton, Virginia. The stories Miss Bacon received were printed in a Hampton newspaper and indeed would be valuable today as perhaps the earliest examples of African American family histories. Other work in the 1800s that paved the way for today's Black genealogies came in the form of a fictionalized newspaper serialization and slave narratives. Black genealogies as a life writing tradition often are touted as beginning in 1837 with Victor Séjour's The Mulatto, first published in serial form in a French newspaper. The 1842 text by Lunsford Lane is a good example of a slave narrative being expanded upon into a more traditionally broad, multi-generational story decades and even centuries later, including expanding into a 2025 genealogical biography titled Becoming Lunsford Lane. In 1913, the Reverend Theophilus G. Stewart and William Stewart published their genealogy of the people of color of Gouldtown, New Jersey. Gouldtown provides a genealogy of the forebears of the town's inhabitants, focusing more on the unique quality of the town than on its people. Also in the early 1900s, the 1906 genealogical memoir Shadows and Sunshine was an important development. Seen here in the top left corner, this book solidified the ancestral heroism that characterizes Black genealogies. It was not until 1930 that a book was published in this country detailing the history of an African-American family from the arrival of the immigrant to the date of publication. John L. Jones probably wrote this narrative about his very successful family because he, like Miss Bacon, felt future generations would find it valuable, and also because he was justifiably proud of his family's accomplishments. Noting that the purpose of the Jones history is to highlight family accomplishments for the benefit of generations to come, leads us next to an exploration of the themes of Black genealogy book content. 3 themes explain the spiritual, mental, and embodied route that Black genealogies take to transport readers to ancestral home. Starting at the bottom, the first theme is the deep roots of heroizing ancestors. The second theme is the deep knowledge of interpreting ancestral records through the hero lens. And the third theme is the deep you or deep self of arriving at ancestral home, full of positive ancestral self-identity. How these themes interact constitutes the agapic agency theory of Black genealogies. While deep roots, deep knowledge, and deep you are the 3 primary themes of Black genealogy books, other salient features also shine through in these mostly privately published books. So we'll end with a look at a few other key components of Black genealogies, which are that education is a core value. The books typically are printed in small press runs. They're compelling archival artifacts, and their stories are embedded in American history. Driven to achieve, no doubt, by the general prejudice and low status given African Americans, the Jones family saw education as its way to freedom and equality. Obviously bright, the family members sought and achieved one advanced degree after another. The Jones family produced doctors and dentists, and especially educators. The author's brother, James, was president of what is now West Virginia State College at Institute, West Virginia. An impassioned orator, extracts from his last public speech printed in his memorial, reprinted here, illustrate the strength of his writing and reasoning. John, the author, and his father before him were successful businessmen. Given the important role of education in Black genealogies, the HBCUHeritageHome.com is the name of the online interactive archive that celebrates Black genealogies. This growing archive of hundreds of books is a space for research, family and other conversations, and additional thrilling activities related to Black genealogies. It is the place, in fact, for all things related to Black genealogies. One example of how education plays a key role in Black genealogies can be seen in the 2000 book, The Source of Our Pride, shown in the top left corner. This book contains a 9-page section titled Colleges and Universities Attended by Members of the Garrett, Neely, and Sullivan families. This education section includes the names of more than 250 family members, as well as the 128 higher education institutions they attended. Among the schools named are HBCU's Barber Scotia and Voorhees colleges, Ivy's Columbia and Yale universities, and other schools such as Georgia Institute of Technology and Temple University. The 2020 book, The Robertson Family, is another example of how education figures prominently in privately printed Black genealogies. This book, in the top left corner, focuses on education in part by devoting 14 of its 102 pages to the topic in 2 separate sections. The sections are titled Role in Establishment of Secondary Education for Blacks in Hardeman County and Educational/Professional Pursuits and Successes of Children, Grandchildren, and Great-Grandchildren of Crawford Robertson. Self-published and with a small run of about 100 copies, The History of the Jones Family nevertheless had an impact. It was extensively cited by E. Franklin Frazier in his influential The Free Negro Family, a study of family origins before the Civil War. It was also cited in a 1977 work, Black Genealogy, by Charles Blockson. Mr. Blockson, in personal correspondence with scholar Michel Perdue, referred to the little book as a rare historical item and urged its reprinting because it would be an asset to genealogical studies for scholars as well as the general public. Mr. Perdue was able to find only one extant copy of The History of the Jones Family. Its owner, a Jones family descendant, has graciously allowed us to publish this new edition. With the small press run of about 100 copies, perhaps one for each extended family member, and academic and commercial cataloging numbers and subject terms that are too broad to permit efficient detection, privately printed Black genealogies are indeed difficult to find archival artifacts. To unearth these gems, the HBCUHeritageHome.com curates, researches, exhibits, and hosts high-level conversations solely about Black genealogy books. The History of the Jones Family recounts from oral history, family tradition, the story of 6 generations of a free Black family in America. Most of the information is firsthand knowledge of the author about his immediate family. He was careful to include only dates and data that he felt were correct. However, some discrepancies exist with regard to the information in his brother's memorial. Generally, however, the supporting evidence Mr. Perdue has found corroborates John L. Jones's narrative. Jones's narration places his family squarely in the history of their time. Before the Civil War, the author's father, Joseph Jones, was a conductor on the Underground Railroad in Gallipolis, Ohio, on the Ohio River across from what was then the slave state of Virginia. Jones's account, undoubtedly from stories told by his parents, is a valuable addition to the literature on the railroad. His story of the war period itself offers an African American's perspective of events. The entire book provides insight into the character of a Black family, probably not unlike many others who strove for dignity and respect and worked quietly within society's parameters for freedom and equality. Because African American family heritage books set Black family history squarely in the center of American history, honoring these books as a genre is a fitting way to celebrate Roots' 50th anniversary and America's 250th anniversary in 2026. The HBCUHeritageHome.com interactive archive of Black genealogy books goes live in fall 2025 to begin that celebration. So that's it for the introduction of the book, The History of the Jones Family, as a conduit for understanding the legacy of privately printed Black genealogies. We now know that the earliest publications of Black genealogies were in narrative and newspaper formats in the 1800s. These led to the foundational tenet of ancestral veneration in the 1906 book Shadows and Sunshine. Then came community genealogies, such as Gouldtown in the 19-teens. Then, in 1930, came the core Black genealogy book format of today, with publication of The History of the Jones Family. Today's Black genealogies are explainable via the agapic agency theory. According to this theory, the destination for all the books is ancestral home, as they take readers on an upward spiritual, mental, and embodied journey to get there. Starting at the bottom and working our way up to ancestral home, the books lead with the deep roots of heroizing ancestors. They then interpret ancestral records, including education records, through that hero lens as part of deep knowledge. And finally, the deep you or deep self of the reader arrives at ancestral home, full of positive ancestral self-identity. Because education is a core value in Black genealogies, the interactive archive that takes readers to ancestral home is named the HBCUHeritageHome.com. It features otherwise hard to find small press run Black family heritage books, all of which are worthy archival artifacts. And these books embed Black family history in American history, generating meaningful conversations and community solutions to all challenges. May the enduring impressions of privately published Black genealogy books live on, one book at a time, as the legacy of ancestral stories graces coffee tables, bookshelves, and school and college curricula across America. Because of the HBCUHeritageHome.com Black Genealogy Book Archive, the history of privately printed Black genealogies won't be overshadowed by ongoing publications by the commercial and academic presses. Thank you for listening to Publishing Ancestral Home, and I look forward to your questions and comments.